Hello, and welcome back to another alignment talk here on the Elements of Evolution channel. Today, I'm so excited to bring with you a conversation with Rebecca. And I want to introduce Rebecca because her work in the world is so incredible. So, just to give you a little flavor of the conversation we'll be diving into, Rebecca is the founder of Blume Womb, and she is a menstrual cycle coach and womb healing facilitator. Her journey with Blume Womb started after her own incredible connection to her inner power and her womb. And throughout her own journey of rediscovering her feminine essence, and after years of neglecting it, like many of us have experienced, she realized that she was being raised in a world that was not educating women regarding the wisdom of connecting with their own femininity, their cyclic nature, or teaching us how sacred our womb truly is. After her powerful experience, it became her mission through Blume Womb to educate women, share this information, and honor their own cyclic nature. So, welcome, Rebecca. Is there anything that
Mhm.
I forgot there that you'd like to share and just introduce in your own words, or does that feel complete?
That feels amazing. That was great. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're here and really excited to see where this conversation takes us. And I just have to share how resonant your work is with me because I too was raised in a world that very much valued this unidirectional conversation between the body, this masculine mental realm. And
Mhm.
I spent a lot of years in a relationship with my body that was top down and very punishing, not having any sort of bidirectional conversation or listening practice with my body and completely undervaluing intuition and had so many symptoms as a result of that. So I'm really excited to dive in today. And first,
Mhm.
I would love to hear, we always kind of start these alignment chats with a little bit of a background or a story as to how being out of alignment felt for you and what jump started your journey into alignment and into Bloom Womb and the work that you do now.
Love that question. I feel like there's so many layers to that question too. But I think the biggest thing, kind of what you were just sharing, is like the not being tuned in with your body and like being disconnected to that. I think I kind of hit this point in my life where my not that I was like sick, but I was burned out. And so my body was very much coming up with all these symptoms, whether it was acne or just constant anxiety, feeling like I was living in fight or flight, waking up with like heart pop, like my heart just beating really fast. Yeah, it was really difficult for like, and really just feeling overwhelmed with life. I think that was a big thing for me where I feel like doing one task felt like running a marathon. Like it was just so much for me to show up in the world. And it was really because of years and years of neglecting my body and neglecting my needs and that. And then my body just being like stressed and feeling not safe, you know? And so the safety really came back into my body when I started learning to tune into it. And the way that I did that was through cycle tracking and just really giving my body what it needed throughout the month and understanding that like there is this cycle that I live through and work with, and that when we tune into that, it really brings us back into line, especially as women. And I think so many of us have been divorced to our bodies because we've never been like even taught about our bodies. I mean, the first studies that are done on women were like less than 100 years ago. Like we're still learning about the female body, you know. And so we as women are still learning about our own bodies too, because that has been neglected, suppressed for so long. So I think that really, when I started learning about how my body functions, how to best support it, how to live in tune with it, how to listen to it, that's really what brought me back into alignment. And then that's also how Bloom Womb started, because I was also so much more connected to my my creative center, which is our womb as women, right? And then from that, things were able to sprout, and that's really where Bloom Womb also came from, was from just being able to connect back to that essence that so many of us have also neglected over our lives, right? So yeah.
Okay, okay. I want to pull this apart. There's so many juicy nuggets in this piece that you shared. fascinates me that you bring anxiety into this because I
Mm,
truly believe anxiety is a manifestation of a disconnect within us, an
mm,
incongruency, if you will, between our inner and outer worlds, and particularly around the way that we outsource our authority and we look
mm,
outside ourselves for this external, whether it's validation, permission, or direction. And I'm curious if you have something to say about how this is getting right into it, by the way, but do you have something to say about your body as the leader of your life, your intuition, and how she leads you now, and what that's done for the dissipation of anxiety?
yeah. I I think the main thing what I've like when I was in my anxious spirals or just waking up with anxiety or going to bed with anxiety. And like, don't get me wrong, I still have those days, it's like it's something that I think we all work through over time and like then learning like, okay, wait, this is coming back around. How can I use my tools slash my just feeling into why I'm having this emotion come through, right? And I think anxiety really is yeah, such a messenger in a way, like really seeing like, okay, why am I feeling this anxiousness? And a lot of times anxiety is just, yeah, that disconnect to our trust and to like really being in the presence too. And that's also a huge thing for so many women being like, if we're out of our bodies, if we're out of the present moment, like we're not being present with what's actually happening. We're not tuning into that. And there's also why I'm such a, like, I teach so much about like sensuality because sensuality is all about using our senses. And we women have also divorced ourselves from that and not allowing ourselves to be in our pleasure because that has also been sexualized. And I mean, there's so many like avenues we could dive in with that, but it is this like, it no longer being the sacred process of using our sensuality for us to connect with ourselves and our pleasure, which is really what takes us out of fight or flight anxiety and what really regulates our nervous system. And with that, our hormones, our whole entire body can come back into balance. So I think that's really been my biggest tool is sensuality and like romanticizing my life and just making everything like bringing in the presence by romanticizing my life because I can bring in my senses in doing that. And it sounds so like, ooh, like airy fairy, like romanticize your life. But like, no, it really is this like key to magnetism, I think, for a woman, because again, you allow yourself to be in the present moment and you slow down. That's a big thing too, is like allowing ourselves to slow down, seeing what is like present. Yeah, and slowing down in like the day-to-day tasks instead of rushing through them and doing three things at once and multitasking. Like just because we can, we should, it doesn't mean we always should. So um yeah, the anxiety piece I think is a big one that a lot of us live in and think that it's just something that we have to like live through, and really it is just a messenger for us to like slow down and come back in our presence and use our sensuality and tune into that before doing anything else, before taking any supplements or medications. Like let's just start with that.
Mhm. Okay, I'm just like so excited here because so many of us live such busy, full lives, and really what we're doing is avoiding. So, if you were to speak to someone that was quite new to this work, to attuning to the body, and they were used to spending all of their time in the mental realm, following the plan, and the plan is not making us feel how we thought the plan would make us feel, how would you, and you can just share your personal experience too, but when you feel anxiety in your body, how does it show up for you? And this might be a really great starting point for people that are just getting into the body and recognizing anxiety in their body-based like information that their body's giving them.
Yeah, I think anxiety for me, and I think probably for a lot of women, it shows up in, for me, it always shows up in this way of like, I'm not present in what I'm doing. And my thoughts are somewhere else. And I'm like, I don't know, making breakfast and like I'm not present with my making breakfast, or when I'm eating my food, I'm like checking my messages and like it shows up in like wanting to escape the moment, kind of. That's kind of what it feels like of like it doesn't feel safe to be right here because there's all these thoughts, and also like it shows up in being in your head too much. That's really what it is too. It's like the energy being up here versus like bringing it down to like feeling and allowing ourselves to tune into yeah, the emotions behind the anxiety and what actually the truth is, and allowing ourselves to be like, okay, these are the thoughts I'm having. What is true? What isn't true? What does my body need right now? And then really being able to go from there and giving it what it needs. So I think that's really the biggest thing for me and so many women that I work with is like the being too much in your head and the overthinking and the spiraling, right? And then with that, you're so not in the present of what you're doing. Like if you find your, I mean, I'm sure we've all done this where you're like cooking and then suddenly like, why did I put this here? Or how come like my glasses ended up in the dishwasher? Like we all have done that. It's like when we're not present and we're just living in this mindless overthinking, right? And so the more we can just slow down, tune back into doing one thing at a time and really feeling our senses and not overstimulating ourselves with another podcast, more music, another TV show, another whatever it is, like more information. Like it's all about doing less in that and going back to the basics too, right? So yeah, I'd say that's like a good you'll know when you're in your head versus in your body, I think in that way.
I love that information. It's so, so helpful for people. I also feel anxiety around my sternum, like quite literally in my body. And I sort
Mm,
of have to ask, like, is this mine? Like, what is this? And
mm,
I love that you bring in emotion as a messenger, and it makes
mm.
it more of an empowering experience to then feel our emotions and be in our body because we get to be curious instead of shutting it off and running around in these contracted states, trying to do
Yeah,
too much at once, like you say. So I always feel it when it's in my sternum around my heart space and just breathe into that space, let the tension go
yeah,
from my shoulders, and then I get to listen after that instead of shut it down and avoid. And that
totally.
sort of segues into this conversation that you bring to the space around sensuality, and that we forget our intelligence sometimes outpaces our wisdom, and that we are very primal creatures. And sometimes it can be as simple as what's going on with your nervous system. I'm curious what comes up for you around this, and if you can speak into this sort of gas brake pedal and how we need both when we're accessing pleasure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, also if we think about nervous system regulation, I think that word is just like we see that everywhere, right? Like, especially on social media, it's like regulate your nervous system. I have a regulated nervous system. And then you think about rest, you think rest is just like laying down and doing nothing. But like a lot of the times, really what we need is mental rest. And mental rest can only come when we're coming back into our bodies because we're bringing that energy back down. And so a lot of the times, my rest looks like dancing, even though that's not physical rest, but it's mental rest because I'm bringing my energy back down to that. So if we're just looking at like the different types of rest there, I think we've learned that rest can only be physical, and that is a huge problem in itself, I think, because we live in such a world where like only when our physical body is tired we give ourselves rest, but when our brain is tired or when we're having all these emotions we like push through them because it's you can't see it, it's not like, but you can feel it, right? So I think learning to understand the different types of like when we're exhausted in these different ways and our body is like asking for these different types of rest, that really brings us this like permission to one do that, and then two bringing that sensuality piece is like sensuality is like again it's like all about using your senses, right? And so one of the best pieces of bringing that into your day-to-day life is, well, obviously using your senses, but then also like connecting with your body in that way and like being able to give your body a massage when you wake up in the morning, like when you're coming out of the shower, for instance, or eating your food so slowly and really taking every bite in and seeing how that feels in your body to do that. Um, or when the sun hits your face, like really feeling that, like really just being so in your senses in that. And that in itself is almost also like a type of rest because we're resting from the overthinking or being in the mind and we're coming into the body in that way. So that there, yeah, that piece I think is so important because again, we also just live in such a world of like go, go, go. There's no time to be present with these things. We have 1,000 things to do, which is not normal for us humans to like live the way that we are living. And so the more you can bring in, and when I say slow down, I'm not saying like don't do the things you have to do throughout the day, but do them more with more presence and with more of your sensuality, and bringing in more of the okay, how can I like just throughout the day tune into my body in using my senses. Even if I have a busy to-do list, you can still slow that to-do list down just by using your senses.
Mm.
So I think that's a huge part with nervous system regulation. And we think that it has to be this like, oh, you have to take an hour of the day to like reset your nervous system. The goal is that your nervous system is almost always at a regulated state because you're finding a way to keep it there versus it's your cortisol spiking that at the end of the day you have to do all the things to like bring your cortisol back down. Like that's not the goal. That's very like yeah, very inconsistent and really hard on your body to do that. So
Mhm.
the consistency of just keeping it at a steady pace is really, really the goal with nervous system regulation, I'd say.
I think that's such a beautiful way of bringing in what I call islands of sanctuary
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a mama, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm as busy as the next gal, and really resting sometimes can feel like one more thing to do. So if I walk away from like with anything from this, it is the giant permission slip to let rest be something different that my physical body needs. And I
Mm-hmm.
find that so many of us these days have so many mental tabs open that it is like a wired and tired
Yeah.
experience where our bodies really aren't that exhausted, but mentally we
Mhm.
need that shut off and dropping our
Yeah.
awareness down into the body. Just everything that you said resonates so deeply here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I do think that a lot of women, as soon as you bring in the word sensuality, they have this reaction to it. And
Mhm.
invitation for listeners, if you felt that or you had some sort of turn off in your body when you hear the word sensuality or even femininity, it's my invitation to lean in and get really curious about what's underneath
Yeah.
the resistance because
Mhm.
the journey is starting for you and I'm excited. I'm curious. I want to pull up your chart here and just sort of break open some of these pieces. And then you did mention cortisol, so I do want to kind of chat about that in a little bit, but I want to pop
Mhm.
up your chart here. Can you see this here?
I can, yes.
Okay, beautiful. And I can still see you. So
Okay.
I I know that you were born in the Netherlands. I hope that's okay to share here. And your
Yeah.
chart in where your current location is vastly different. And I just think it's incredible that you've got your sun sign in the sign of Aries in your 10th house. You and I, my
Mhm.
friend, actually have the same placement. But to break
Mm.
this down, your sun is very much related to how you experience yourself as separate from the collective. It is intimately connected to personality and just you, how you're unique and different. And
Mhm.
in Aries, it is very much a leadership quality, taking the step without seeing the whole staircase, going whether or not your friends, your tribe are coming with you. It is very much a leadership energy, and it's a primal energy that is
Mhm.
led by this internal compass. So,
Mhm.
right there, I'm like, ooh, girl is getting in touch with her senses, her sensuality, and letting that lead. And your body, whether it's an emotional messenger or you're connecting with this primal compass that you have. That is so cool to see it playing out in real time. And
Mhm.
also, your sun is intimately connected to purpose. So, if we think about the sun, like quite literally on a 24-hour cycle, it gives us vitamin D. Every single day, we can sit under the sun and be recharged. It's what brings us vitality and energy to live the life that we are meant to live. And I just think that it's beautiful you leaning into this, let's say, creating completely new paths for women to walk in a way that you are being led by your body and also not necessarily having someone that's leading you and learning that you are your own highest authority and then teaching women to do that themselves. So I
Mm.
just find that really, really fascinating. Does anything come up when you hear that?
Yeah, I mean, it all resonates for sure. Um, Especially the like, I think you said this in the beginning where you're saying like taking steps without knowing what's gonna come. Like I'm very much just like, yeah, I've always done that. That's how I feel like I've built my whole entire life. Like I moved to Maui with $400 or to Hawaii with like $400 to my name after my house burnt down. It was kind of I was kind of like, okay, we'll see where we go. So that's like that's how I've lived my whole entire life. So yeah, makes sense.
Wow, talk about the trust. That is incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Which totally makes me look at, so I am, by the way, looking at a Placidus chart. And
Mhm,
if you don't know what that is, no worries. And a lot of times, too, I tell people listen through the lens of your own intuition, take what works and leave the rest. And I also say ignore the astro talk and just take the meaning because sometimes, like, remembering all the astrology symbols can be a lot. But
totally.
what I'm looking at right now is a chart that I've pulled for you because you're pre-Saturn return.
Mhm,
And it means that essentially, I believe, I should back up a little bit. Essentially, I believe that our higher self, our soul, has chosen these particular energies, these placements of our planets within our chart so that we experience the karmic lessons and the life path that our soul has desired for us to experience. And
mhm,
then we absolutely have free will, personal power, sovereignty in the way that we navigate this. So you aren't even post Saturn return, and your power is palpable, and it's so cool to see. And it
mhm,
makes me hella curious, like, wow, what is this woman going to create after Saturn might even offer you more responsibility or a slight redirect? I don't know if you feel it coming already as I'm speaking, if any like hints are coming. Listen to
mhm,
that because there is about to be greater lesson for you here. And Saturn, I always tell people, is like the stern grandfather, or if that doesn't feel like a healthy relationship in your body, the stern mentor that knows your potential, the highest potential possible, and is here to make sure that you move in alignment every step forward. And a lot of
mhm,
people get scared by that stern energy, but it is truly for us. And
mhm,
after our first Saturn return, it's almost like we get to pick up the pen even more. Or if there was
mhm,
a hand that was holding the pen as we were writing our own story, that hand gets released and now it's just us and we have complete sovereignty in our life. So I'm really excited to see how this shakes out for you.
mhm.
Feel free to interject and say anything there if something's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I definitely, honestly, this last like month, I've been like, wow, I feel like things are starting to slowly shift a little bit. And I'm like, guess we're maybe slowly coming into this next season, especially with Saturn return, probably coming up within the next like year or so. But yeah, it's yeah, definitely, I definitely feel like there's this need to like shift a little bit in my life right now already, and I've gone through so many transitions this year already, so I definitely resonate with that for sure.
Yeah, and just hearing about the synchronicities that led you to where you are now, I
Mhm.
just see you as someone that can absolutely navigate this time like it is the most benevolent experience.
Yeah,
It's when we approach life like it happens for us rather than to us, we
right.
naturally make the most of it, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
The other thing that I really wanted to bring in here, Rebecca, is your Venus and Jupiter in Pisces with your MC. So that'll
Mhm.
shift. Like when you are post Saturn return, I would pull what's called the whole sign house system. So just to fill you in a little bit more about that, the Placidus is sort of this distribution of the different energies in our life in a way that isn't equal. But then when we go through this challenge of the Saturn return or this redirect or slight greater responsibility, greater alignment, whatever you want to call it, we I tend to pull what's called the whole sign system. And the Placidus system was created in very ancient times when we were born into let's say, like class system or a status that there was no chance we'd ever get out of. So if you were born into slavery, you were never going to become a prince.
Mhm.
Nowadays, we live in the information age. We know how powerful the mind is. We know energetic work. We have access to so many incredible life expanding tools and wisdom. And
Mhm.
it's a different experience in today's modern world. And as we have these karmic lessons, work through whatever our soul has asked us to in our young life, we then get this more equal distribution of our psyche, and that is represented in the whole sign chart. So if that's all mumbo
Mhm.
jumbo, don't worry about it. But I'm
Mhm.
excited to see how things shift for you. And I wanted to share that even in the Placidus system, there is a value from you in leaning into the all that is, these really big philosophical, like, why are we here? What is my purpose? What is my mission in this world? And pursuing, I want to call it like pursuing why you're really here. Like, there's no fucking around, and you're not like, yeah, I'm in my 20s and I'm going to waste my time drinking and avoiding and having fun in this way that a lot of times we look around and people have fun and they're dead asleep. So to
Mhm.
put it a little bit bluntly, but you've got this placement in your chart that speaks to this part of you that values connection, not only with your inner divine, but your higher self at source, your oversoul, whatever you want to call it, and God, anything universe, quantum physics, whatever you want to resonate with. And that is hanging out with your MC, which is how people who don't know you see you. And
Mhm.
it's kind of what they want from you. It absolutely relates to your visual marketing, totally. But your
Mhm.
people that are not your close friends or your family that sort of see you through your social media, through your other more distant outlets, that's actually how they see you and what they want from you is this connection to divinity, which I think is so beautiful and
Mhm.
makes me want to ask you more about the womb.
Yeah, that's super super interesting to see it in that like yeah, because obviously it's like you have a following, you're like okay, like I'm sure people see you in X, Y, and Z terms, but then being like oh, like that's in my astrology chart. Super interesting to see that. But yeah, you're asking about the womb and is that your question?
It's essentially, yeah, let
Yeah.
me rephrase this. It's essentially like, how is the womb our portal into our own divinity?
Mm. Ooh, okay. Well, I just let's just take a look at what the womb does. She is there to create actual life, actual human life, right? And we women really hold this portal of life, and every single month we go through the process of life and death itself, where an egg is released at ovulation, and then if that isn't fertilized, it goes through another death process where we then bleed. So we women really hold the cycle of life and death itself, and everything in life goes through that. Everything in life goes through the cycle of life and death, right? Where there's a seedling, it blooms, harvest, and then decay. We go through that cycle every single month. So if we're talking about like how the womb is a portal to divinity, well, I think divinity itself is life and death and just like creation and bringing the evolution of that forward, um, the ever evolving as well. And that really is what the womb does. She is ever evolving. And if you really tune into your cycle, a woman has around 400 cycles in her lifetime. That's 400 opportunities for you to tap into that journey every single month and also get to know yourself deeper on a deeper level. Any cycle is its own journey, really. You can when you really start cycle tracking, you tuning into how you're moving through that throughout the month, like every cycle is going to be its own journey and really support you in whatever you're moving through in your life right now. And so that process in itself of just you reaching your best version of yourself, I guess you could say, for lack of better words, comes through that journey of knowing yourself through understanding this process that you move through every single month as a woman. So yeah, that's I think there's so many more ways we could talk about that, but I think that's probably the foundation of how the womb is such a portal to that for sure.
Okay, thank you because I know that that is an absolutely loaded question, and a lot of the relationship with the womb isn't really had in words or communicated through the English language. So I think sometimes bringing this huge experience, this relationship can be really tricky when we're speaking about it. So I have so much reverence for the journey that you must have been on to experience this. And I just want
Mhm.
to say, like, for me, it's such an invitation to our true nature, which is divinity
Mhm.
as well. And I'm just like, this is kind of juicy. It's just coming through as we're chatting. But I remember really dishonoring my cycle. Like I would go to a hot power yoga class while I was bleeding. And
Mhm.
my relationship to exercise was really punishing. I was angry about being a woman. I was angry about having a period. I was disgusted with it. And,
Mhm.
I would hide my like tampons and pads as I was a young woman growing up and like, yeah, okay, still
Yeah.
dispose of it like nicely, but there was so much shame around it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I found it really interesting that when I got pregnant, I experienced so much anger.
Mhm.
And I am so grateful that I had this perspective of the womb being our energetic storehouse. And I
Mhm.
remember like literally playing some Offspring and like beating the shit out of my pillows on the bed and having an anger process and then
Mhm.
talking to like baby and saying like this is what's happening and we're totally safe and this is okay and just giving it space.
Mhm.
And I'm curious if you've had your own experiences with the womb being the energetic storehouse and the invitation to honor yourself in a deeper way, whether it's boundary or how does it make you stand up and step into your power?
It was, yeah, such a good question. I mean, I think that one of the biggest ways, like the first thing that came to mind is like think about our luteal phase or inner autumn and how often we women feel anger and frustration in that phase or irritation or maybe self-confidence is lower, right? And that phase, I think most women struggle with most, but it really is such an invitation to meet ourselves deeper every single month. Like the luteal phase is anything that's not working in your life or anything that you haven't looked at is going to show up in week 3 of your cycle, which is your luteal phase. And so that in itself, like the amount of times I have felt anger in my luteal phase, and instead of suppressing it, being like, okay, I'm here to hold you and honor you, because we have taught that it's not the proper thing to feel anger or express our needs in that ways or our boundaries. Like that's not the feminine thing to do, which is complete BS, obviously, because the feminine is so much more than just the light, nurturing, playful, sweet woman. She's also the wild woman that's primal and that has sacred rage in her. And like finding a way to connect to that version of yourself, especially in your luteal, the archetype, the feminine archetype that's connected to that phase of our cycle is the sorceress or also the wild woman. And so that part of ourselves has so often been like, that's not okay. Like you can't you can't be that kind of woman in this society. It's not proper. It's not seen as feminine. Yeah. And I mean, those are the women that also were were put away and weren't and were like told that they're not part of like they were what's it called like just exiled from society essentially in the past. So yeah, so I think going back to your question, when you're feeling that kind of anger that comes up in the womb, the way that it will show it, that any emotion comes up through your cycle, but then especially your luteal phase, and that's really when we can apply our tools to feel our anger in a healthy way versus being abruptive and also projecting onto maybe other people or relationships or whatever it may be, right? So really allowing ourselves to feel our anger and like throw a freaking tantrum or go outside and dance in a primal way or like yeah, punch a pillow, whatever you need to do to release that or yell. Um, and then oh shoot, I forgot my train of thought with that, but I think that that's probably like the main thing. Oh, you were asking about boundaries and your womb. And I think for me, the boundary setting of like allowing certain like relationships with men,
Mhm.
that has been a huge thing in my journey with my womb of like, because I my early 20s, I will say I was very promiscuous, and I was very open with allowing my sexual relations to just, yeah, being explorative in that. And over time, it really built up, and it got to a point where I couldn't feel my body and what I actually wanted, what actually felt good to me, my pleasure. And I really had to go through a whole journey of like celibacy with that, and like just coming back into my own energy and really releasing all the things that actually weren't mine, that I was holding and storing in my womb. And now I'm so like intentional with who I share that with, because it is something that affects me. If I share it with someone who doesn't really isn't able to hold me and really honor me, and has full respect for myself and my body, and that's it, just is the like boundary I have with my body, my womb now. But it's also what keeps me in a sacred, safe space. And so that I've noticed how my womb has stored so much that wasn't mine to hold, and just being like a, yeah, a center for a lot of pain that wasn't mine to hold too. And so I think a lot of women have probably like a lot of pain that you might feel in your womb as a woman might not be even be yours, but might be from ex-partners or whatever else. It's just, or an ancestral thing that can also totally be a thing. So yeah, being mindful of who you open that portal to, because it is a portal. It's such a portal. um yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that you are steering us in a really juicy direction. And
Hmm.
yeah, I sort of want to open up this conversation of our conditioning,
Hmm.
and not just from like this lifetime cultural, societal conditioning to be the nice woman, but I think that there is so much that disconnects us from our sacred no. that
Hmm.
that we have so much trouble hearing our no using the voice. I'm going to bring
Hmm.
astrology in that's like not particularly related to your chart, although interesting that we can dive into it too. But
Hmm.
we like from a medical astrological perspective, Scorpio rules our genitals, it rules our sex organs, our reproductive organs, and Taurus rules the throat. And
Hmm.
they're on the same axis. And I find it fascinating that we are connected throat to cervix via the vagus nerve. I find it fascinating that cervix is Latin for throat. There's
Yeah.
a connection there. And there's an ancestral connection that has us perhaps disconnected from our bodies in like a collective feminine sense and in our own lineage sense. And you brought this in, and I just have a feeling with you as a Cancer rising, being someone that is familiar with the watery realms, with the emotional realms, with the connection to ancestry. And is there something that you would like to speak on further about that? Have you, like, we can pull this apart too, but
Mhm.
does anything come up for you bringing that in?
So I'm a Scorpio rising from what I know.
Okay, I'm pulling your relocation chart.
Okay. Oh, okay. Is this different then?
It's slightly different. I'm so glad
Okay. I was like,
that's
wait.
though.
For a second, I was like, do I not know my chart? Like, am I been the whole my whole life have I been wrong? But okay, this is so in this chart, there's a rising with Cancer. Is that right?
Yeah, okay, so this is
Okay.
actually super juicy that you bring this in because
Okay.
Cancer and Scorpio energy. Like here you are, beautiful baby in the Netherlands, Scorpio rising,
Yes.
and that's still a piece of you. And then the Cancer rising in this new location that you're in Maui. So both are these incredibly vast watery signs.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cancer in the like curriculum of the zodiac, if you will, Cancer is the first watery sign that is all about feeling. It is
Mhm.
ruled by the moon. It is the great nurturer. It is the mother lineage. It is roots and ancestry.
Yeah.
And then Scorpio, and I'm speaking this in because I feel like you're going to resonate with both, especially with a Scorpio moon.
Yeah.
So with your moon in your first house, like in your traditional chart of Scorpio rising, it's also
Uh-huh.
like you embody the moon too. You embody the changing cycles that the moon offers us, this opportunity,
Mm,
like you said, to be not only a cyclic being, but like you're literally here to be a walking permission slip for women to honor their cyclic nature. The moon
mm,
is month. Our
mhm.
cycles are a month long. Like
Yeah.
your connection with the moon and the way that you actually embody this wisdom is wild. And even
Hmm.
just being in a space with someone and giving off your frequency, like even in an energetic sense, if you weren't even to open your mouth and share your femininity, they could feel that, whether they're conscious of it or not. But you're literally like femininity embodied, cyclic nature embodied, permission slip embodied, which is so, so cool. And that doesn't go away just by looking at a relocation chart. But looking
Mm,
at the relocation chart still has Cancer ruled by the moon in your first house that is you embodying all that we just talked about, this cyclic nature of yours. But then
mm,
peeking into Scorpio, if Pisces and Cancer are lakes and rivers, Scorpio is an ocean in that it is such a deep sign. It is an archetype that calls bullshit on the superficial, cannot stomach anything that is like blech, surface level. You're
mm,
not here to participate in conversations about the weather or like niceties. You are here to dive deep. There's a reason why you're talking about the deepest part of our body, you know what I mean? And the taboo to be able to
mhm.
have these conversations about bleeding. And we literally used to be like shoved away in some back corner of the house when we were menstruating and not talked about,
Right.
or we were considered dirty. And here you are bringing in this like beautiful taboo conversation to the masses with your son at the very top of your relocated chart, like wanting to be seen. When the sun is at the very top of our chart, it's like, time to shine. You are meant to be seen in the world. Get over whatever shyness you have because you're bringing this dirty, taboo, dark shit up to the surface to bring light to it and say like, "Hey, we're actually going to alchemize whatever crappy beliefs and like self-limiting subconscious BS that there is around these topics that are actually so beautiful and empowering." And it's coming through like I see that in the work that you're doing. And I'm curious like what's popping up for you hearing that.
Yeah, that all feels very resonant. It's really interesting to hear the way that you're like Scorpio, it's so connected to the moon, which I'm like, yeah, I'm obsessed with the moon if you can't tell. So it makes a lot of sense. Um, but yeah, and especially the emotional aspect of all these in the water, it's like that's always been something I've been really hard on myself growing up, where I'm like, why do I have to be so emotional and like always go through that process and not have the almost like the logical come in? But I'm like, that's how I navigate life is through my emotions and that. So yeah, it's and I now I'm also feeling how much it is my superpower to really have that ability. But when I was younger, it was definitely something where I was really hard on myself and like tried to resist the emotions that were coming up or just not honoring them in those ways. So it makes a lot of sense for sure. Super interesting.
Yeah, and there's so like sometimes when I'm listening to somebody speak my astrology to me, there's like synchronicities popping off in my mind. So it's
Totally.
cool to share this with you. And I love
Yeah.
that you say that you had this sort of relationship with yourself that was a little bit maybe like judgmental or having a hard time with like what is actually a really beautiful barometer. You have an emotional barometer that's always guiding you. But you also have, do you see this little symbol that it looks like a key?
Mhm. Yeah.
Whether or not we're looking at your relocation chart, your Chiron, which is the wounded healer, is always going to be in Scorpio next to your moon.
Mm.
So there's something here Because you are like, whether we're looking at relocation chart or not, there's something about your physical vessel and the way you move through the world, the way people experience you, that actually embodies the wounded healer. Like, you live the wisdom that you share, and you are sharing from personal experience, and your emotions, the world of water, the way that you connect to something bigger than yourself, whether you're going forward in time or backward in time, lineage, parallel lives, past lives, whatever it is. There's so much wisdom here for you that you are embodying and sharing in a really big way with the world. And this Chiron, the wounded healer in Scorpio next to your moon, is like, I always think of the quote that Rumi says, the wound is the place where the light enters you. So this
Mhm.
might not ever feel like something that like completely goes away, but it's something that you work with and immediately give the medicine to the people that you're sharing your wisdom with, which is so cool. And yeah, I think that the more that you lean into this, like the realms of water, your work with the all that is, with divinity, the womb as the portal, you also have the planet Jupiter in this, and Jupiter's all about expansion. So
Mhm.
expanding your spirituality, expanding connection to divinity, expanding your like the ways that you're seen as this spiritual leader. There's really an invitation to lean into the water. And sometimes when there's too much water, we need to lean into the opposite, right? Like the earth realm. But
Totally.
yeah, there's so much here that is a really cool reflection of what you're doing for the world.
Yeah, cool. I love that.
Does that bring up any questions?
Does it bring up any questions? Not right now, not that I can think of. Yeah, I'll let you know if there's something that comes up. But for right now, no. Sounds good. If it feels clear. Yeah, makes sense.
I just think it's so cool to be able to peek and just see what you're bringing through into the
Yeah,
mundane, tangible world.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, and being able to like almost use this as another tool of confirmation of like what it is I'm bringing in because I feel like there's so many tools that we have in this world, and like astrology is such a cool one, and just using that as like, okay, confirming we're on the right path or confirming this is what's happening, you know. So I love that.
Yeah, I always say like we don't need astrology, but it's really fun to affirm our intuition.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and using it as like another guiding pillar in our journey, you know, not it being the guiding pillar, but one of them, you know. So yeah, it's cool to have that.
Yeah, because I love that you say that because astrology can be really heady, which brings us full circle to this like we're not living from the mind anymore, people. We are connecting with our body.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And I think that with women in particular, like not outsourcing your intuition to something like astrology or whatever it may be. I mean, there's so many things that we could outsource that to, but like using our body first and foremost to see what is accurate and then using tools like astrology or whatever else to like confirm, okay, this is the path forward or this is the decision to be made or whatever it may be, you know?
Hmm. Um, Rebecca, I wrote down some notes here. I wrote about like cortisol, the creative center, sensuality. I feel like this could honestly go on for so, so long, but I do want to respect your time. Maybe I'm just planting a seed. Maybe I'll have you back one day to talk more. I so appreciate you sharing your story, your wisdom, and giving people perhaps a peek into your world and to see what's possible. I do have one more question for you, though. If you could, this might be a tricky one, sum up what it feels like to be living in alignment, to be living in tune. Could you share like a little blurb on that and just let people know what's possible when they are honoring their cyclic nature?
Yeah, I think the what I always come back to when it comes to like honoring yourself through that lens, it's like this the I think a lot of times we see as women, like we're like, oh, this is this new thing, like tracking your cycle, whatever it may be, but like it's really the way that we're supposed to be living. It's like coming back to the root and the foundation of who what it means to be a woman. And so when we come back to doing that, one, you bring yourself back into balance, and two, you help the collective do the same thing, right? And so when we're living in tune with us, with ourselves, it really starts from like tuning into, and we've talked about this so many times, but tuning into our body and that rhythm that our body moves through. And we women are, it's so necessary for us to do that, because if we don't, there is a huge disalignment that happens. And so the rhythm, learning to dance to your own rhythm, is really the task at hand here, you know. And once you start doing that, it brings you into this like alignment. It's really the foundation in so many ways. So if you're not doing that yet, you haven't tuned into that part of yourself yet, I highly encourage you to do that. And it's not hard, because it's really the way that you're meant to be. If you're like someone like, I've tried everything under the moon to feel in alignment with myself, well, you tried tracking your own moon and living with that, you know. So really, really tuning into your body in that way, I think, is the foundational tool, for so many things, you know. It's been the foundation in coming back into alignment with for yourself.
I love that. I just want to share with you that my own alignment journey sort of started with through the physical vessel, because
Mhm.
it's the one that's the most obvious to us, and led me through Ayurveda. And that was all in the pursuit of my true nature. What was my constitution, that sort of thing. And I'm so curious to learn even more. I know I could like be more honoring of my cyclic nature, and for anyone listening, like give myself more permission. And I love that you brought in the luteal phase. Like maybe we do get a little spicy in this phase because we're not really giving ourselves full permission to rest or to create boundary or to honor ourselves in a way that we really need. And I always think of our menstrual cycle like the bill at the end of the month, where it's like, how well did you honor yourself? And yeah, deep listening. And I think that so many of us have this desire to have deeper connection with our intuition, a clearer channel, to be able to connect to our higher self, to hear, or whatever it is, your intuitive or, psychic capacity that we all have. And I think that honoring your cycle and your cyclic nature naturally leads you to your larger cosmic nature. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful journey, a worthwhile journey. And I love that you are sharing it with the world. And I can see you sharing it with the world in a way that continues to expand, because your sun there is like at the top of your chart. You're meant to be seen and you're meant to be sharing this work. So I'm just celebrating how in alignment you really are. I'm excited to see how things shift for you over your Saturn return. Um, Again, if there's any questions that you've got, feel free to ask. But if there isn't, where can people find your work?
You can find me, if you don't follow me on Instagram already. That's like where I share all my favorite things, honestly. But my Instagram is Blume Womb. I have a website, blumewomb.com. Um, that and on bluemewomb.com you can find all my offerings, really, as well as like I have a cycle journal that I created. I've got some physical products there too. I've got ebooks. So yeah, you can find me there. And yeah, all my offers, I do one-on-one, I do group, I have a membership platform too that I just launched a month or two ago. And I also do retreats. So there's also in-person events that you can join me in.
And I know you have a retreat coming up, correct?
I do. End of this month. I leave in like a week from now for it. Yeah, I'm excited for it.
You want to share a little bit about it?
Yeah, for sure. It is a 4-day retreat. We're going to be in Northern California. It's really special because it's actually the property that is on it. It's my family owns this retreat center, and the women that I'm facilitating this with is they're my mom and my aunt. So it's my lineage of women, really special. And because they're also very much in this work, but they have all these different tools for women, and I really bring in the cycle work and the womb work. They bring a lot of the sensuality work, tantra, all of that as well. Um, but yeah, it's 4 days. Each day is dedicated to different phase of the cycle, as well as the inner season and a feminine archetype, in which we, yeah, really dive into this version of woman that comes alive, whether it's through your monthly cycle, but also the lifetime of a woman. So we also move through a cycle within the lifetime of our womanhood, right? And so we really dive into really all aspects of womanhood through different tools and practices and somatic practices and embodiment practices and all of that. But yeah, it's 4 beautiful immersive days in a group of women. It's a small group. We still have one more spot open if anyone is interested. I don't know when this podcast or when this is being released, but yeah, if anyone was like last minute, I want to join. I'd love to have you there. But it's yeah, I do it once a year, and I am planning on starting to do it more often. And I think next year I'm probably going to be hosting on Maui too. So I'm excited for that.
Woo! Thank you so much for sharing. I will put
Yeah.
this up next week so that people get to hear it before the end of the
Yeah.
month.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you want to join, it's the 28th to the 31st. If you're located in Northern California and you want to come join us, I'd love to have you all there.
I would snatch that spot up if I wasn't heading to Southeast Asia.
Oh, nice. That sounds so fun too, though. Amazing.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. And it's just been such an honor to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was really beautiful and insightful. Thank you so much.